Hello, everybody, and welcome to Game Master Monday presents Burnt Creek. This is the Q&A. The actual series is already finished. You can go and watch it on YouTube if you haven't. Otherwise, you are going to be very confused by what we are going to be talking about. I am Izzy. My pronouns are she, her. I was your storyteller. I will be dishing out the questions for tonight. Before we dive in and introduce our players, I would like to give a quick content warning. While we are not playing, we are still going to be talking about what happened, so the content warning still applies. Burned Creek is a Southern Gothic horror game with themes and subjects that some may find triggering. This includes blood, gore, car crashes, fire, body horror, cults, and death. If any of these are sensitive topics for you and you will be bowing out this evening, I completely understand, and please keep your eyes peeled to Game Master Monday because they have a lot more stuff. I will be announcing what the next mini-series is at the end of tonight's stream, so you'll get to hear it first. Hell yes. And with that, let's reintroduce our players, starting from the top. Amon.
Oh no, I'm supposed to go first. Hello, I am Aman. Pronouns are he, him, and do I talk about my character as well?
Yeah,
Is he?
say who you were playing, all that.
Hello, I'm Aman. I'm also the co-host and GM at the Infinite Tavern. Um, I played Jahangir Chattopadhyay, also pronouns he, him, who was just a cute little baby, all the way from Dhaka, who had immigrated to the US in search for his boyfriend.
And next up, Adam.
Hey there, it's Adam of 5GMs. I'm he, they. I played Father Torres. All kinds of cool stuff happened with him. He went on being a pretty solid priest as far as priests go. And yeah, it was a great game. I had a lot of fun. And again, you can find me over at 5GMs and all that kind of stuff. See me in different places.
Hell yeah. Next up, Jellyfish.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jellyfish Lines. My pronouns are he, him. And I am the host of Playback Static, which is an actual play podcast of the TTRPG Public Access by Jason Cordova. And I am also the co host of Flyleaf to End Sheets, which is going to be released soon. I figured that out soon. And I played Dallas Ashdown. He was the fucked up deer man. I loved him. Thank you, Izzy, for letting me do such fucked up shit to this little man.
Hell yeah, happy to have seen it. And last but certainly not least, we have Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa. My pronouns are she, they. I played Dr. Wesley Merrill. His pronouns are he, him. He was a good doctor, a very secretive man. And if he survived, I'm not telling you right now. You'll have to either watch the Q&A or go back and watch the series. It was really good. Anyway.
That has been our player introductions, and I would like to start off with a question for everybody. What was everyone's favorite roleplay moment of the series? Whether it's something that you did or something that another player did, what moment really stuck out to you? Go for it.
Amon Amon's character, dropping the gun and just like screaming when he couldn't shoot Dallas. Just like, thank you. Wanted that emotion. Thank you. Got it. Also just like Father Torres reading the book. Amazing. The weird book that was given to him. And also for Melissa, Dr. Wesley, amazing with the little secrets about the blood and also the what was it, consumption? I know, tuberculosis. Okay, I remembered what it was.
Synonyms, yes.
For me, it was there were first of all the role play moment I had in episode 1 with Adam. where both of us are. I initiated the conversation where uh, I, as Jahangir, am talking to Father Torres about forgiveness and sins, and if we are forgiven for everything that we do. I mean, that was just an impromptu role play moment that I hadn't planned on doing, but it felt right at the moment, and I really enjoyed like that we had a chance to do that. I wish we would have done that way more. And also, again, on Adam, uh, his role play moment with the other father, uh, and Adam just going full daddy mode on him and just like sort of trying to putting him in place like, hey man, that's not how it's done. Like I loved all those moments. Like, hey, yeah, that's fucking cool. Ooh, I swore. Sorry. If we are good on
We're
that,
good.
right?
We're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine.
Yeah. So those were two things that I really, really enjoyed.
I can go next. I think there was a lot of really fun and good roleplay moments, and I think one of my favorites was when Amon had his character Jahangir kind of tell the rest of the group about something and kind of still like omit it from Father Torres early on. I think it was like episode 2. Um, and it was like kind of like the concept of like keeping like themselves away from judgment. I thought that was really fun and really interesting, and I just liked seeing like the interplay between the rest of you guys, and then again consumption, the TB,
Mm.
and like
Oh
the
yeah.
I was that planned from the beginning, or did you start decide to, okay,
Mm-mm.
I wasn't sure.
No,
I
it wasn't.
really, I think there's just something so poetic about the doctor getting sick, right? And so like real, uh
Mm.
and just sort of I think at least the overall like at the end kind of the not like I don't want to say like betrayal, but Dallas staying with the mother. I thought that was a good moment as we kind of rode away.
I think for me, like obviously, like just Father Torres' entire existence. I'm giving you all of the flowers in the world because as someone who loves playing clerics in D&D, I loved Father Torres. I loved how you took the power system and kind of bought like holiness into it. And granted, I've never played Call of Cthulhu before, so I'm not sure what the parameters of using power are, but I loved how you bought just this huge part of who he was into these very specific moments against Pastor Wyatt. And like I know I remember him having a past with exorcisms, and to have that play in right when we needed it was just amazing. And I'm like, this is incredible. Like, I just want to keep watching this. And then when you bless the water, I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, this is so good, so good, so good. Amon, literally everything Jahangir did was so good, so wonderful. I loved the moment by the window where he was just kind of ruminating on things and looking at the badge that was bloodied, and I just loved everything. And as far as Dallas, like he I really enjoyed the conversation that he and Wesley had upstairs because here's this person who we just begin to have an inkling to be eldritch in some way, and but at his core, even though he wasn't eldritch being overall, at his core there's still like bits and pieces of kindness and helpfulness that are still there, and that was just a really cool balance that you did.
Thank you.
Some
You're welcome.
amazing role play overall, absolutely incredible. One thing that really stuck out to me was the conversation between Father Torres and Pastor Wyatt after the whole uh, transformation thing, where it was something along the lines of like Pastor Wyatt was apologizing for like, oh, you're probably not used to all this, and Father Torres saying like, I don't have a problem with the practices so much as I have a problem with you. Like that hit. That was awesome.
That was a good one. That was
I
really
didn't
good.
like that guy.
Yeah.
I didn't like
Yeah.
that guy.
Fair.
He was a bitch.
Very
He was a bitch.
Nobody
fair.
I'll
did.
say it again. He was a bitch.
You
I
weren't
did not like
supposed
that
to.
fella.
Exactly. Very
I
fair.
love
Is he good or
villains,
not?
and I was like, nah. Mm-mm.
All right. Yeah, continuing on from the discussion of role play moments, this one is a specific question for Amon and Adam. It starts off with thank you for the conversation on sin and forgiveness. Did you two plan on your characters having discussions like that? Also, congratulations on your crit award wins.
Every
Thank you
time it
so
gets,
much.
yes, thank you. Every time it gets mentioned, I forget. I'm like, oh my god, Amon and I won a crit award.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I win the award again every time someone says something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, it was completely impromptu. In the moment itself, I knew about what Jahangir was going through, coming from a conservative society, conservative, Muslim Hindu society, like where he grew up, and coming to a different culture in itself. I assume that that would be a shock for him to like see different, like entirely different people entirely. So he's just looking for just some sort of guidance for anyone. All his life he has been just been told what to do, and he, for the first time, he has been left to his own devices, and some things he has done he's not proud of. um, some things he has done out of necessity, and he's just looking like, hey, if I've done anything wrong, can I be forgiven, like even if it's the most heinous of crimes. And that also um, uh, sort of relates to how different sexualities are treated in a conservative society like India, or in different spaces, like among Muslims in itself. So where it is looked at as a sort of a sin, and like if you are going to, even in popular media depictions, it is sort of shown like, okay, if somebody um, is of a different orientation, they are supposed to be always asking for forgiveness, that, oh, you are doing something wrong, so okay, you're doing okay, maybe you are of a different orientation or of a different sexuality, but make sure to ask for forgiveness for being who you are. And I'm like, that makes sense for Jahangir, who's always a timid guy. So having that like a person of authority, of religious authority, is already there, even though he's a Christian priest, is still there. So like there's always a relation, like, okay, maybe he can help me out, because both are from Abrahamic religions anyway, so maybe something's gonna be there. So that was my I'm going a bit too deep into this. I didn't think it that much through, but like sort of in retrospect, that was going on in my mind uh, when having that sort of a moment. So not
Yeah,
rehearsed at all.
no, it was super. It was all improv, and I was really excited because I was raised Catholic. I did all the work. I'm communed and confirmed. I'm not practicing anymore, and I have no qualms with people being religious or not religious. I have qualms with people being cruel and mean, right? I think that if you've read the book and done the work, you can be religious and be kind. I think all religions preach kindness and
Yeah,
toleration. Jesus would wash the feet of the lowers, right? Like that's the whole thing. Like we're taught to love. I never got the hate portion of Catholicism, and I was also lucky enough to have a priest at the church I went to who was very, very kind. And on more than one occasion, there was a situation with people being upset about the sexuality of someone in like at our church, and our priest addressed the entirety of us and was like, "You're not God. You don't have a place to say anything like that. If they want to come to God's house and worship, they can come to God's house and worship." And like I said, I was blessed to have a priest of that. And I'm not currently Catholic. I don't currently practice anything, but I took kind of the what I've been informed, because I've met cruel Catholic people and cruel religious people, but I've also seen a priest who was kind and read the book and did the work. And I that's kind of how I tried to inform Father Torres. It never really got brought up, but he was a Mexico-born, Texas-raised priest who learned the work from kind of being raised around Catholicism. But I think that sometimes when you're quizzical, you learn beyond what you're taught, and you read and you learn, right? And so that's kind of what I had in mind for him. So that conversation really I think it was like cathartic, right? Where I got to pretend to be the priest and be like, that's priests don't judge, God does. And even God, like, I think, like, conceptually takes in like the person, not just the thing done. And I thought it was a very fun conversation.
Hell yeah, that's so awesome getting to see like so much thought for the background of the characters, and then how that naturally plays out in the moment is always awesome to see. Next up, we have a specific question. This one is for Jelly. When did you decide that Dallas was going to be a deer?
Very early. I went like as soon as I heard that there was like a weird deer from Izzy, because I went like, okay, so I want my character to know shit a little bit, not entirely of everything, but I want him to know a little bit of Eldritch shit. And then you said, yeah, you heard something about a deer, and I went like, sold.
Yeah,
I
very early on, and during the course of, when we were playing the game over the course of the week, every now and then Jelly would message me something like, "Hey, how does this sound? How does this deer tooth idea sound?" And like, that's awesome, absolutely.
thank you.
So goddamn cool. Love it. All right. This
Just on that point, like the again, the whole deer thing was like cool in itself. I did not plan on I did not expect the kind of ending that's gonna go there, where you were what you were going for. So every time you're revealing a tidbit, I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. I really love, like, from the conception to the ending, and almost yeah, Dallas having like a full circle moment and becoming the thing. So that was, I'm just commenting, like, that was pretty cool to see.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. Next, we have a specific question for Melissa. Dr. Wesley seemed to have a knack for always having something very poignant to say. How did you manage that?
First of all, that's so kind. Thank you. I think it probably comes from me having been in performance spaces since I was 9 years old. So I've been in a sort of realm for a very, very long time. A person never reveals their age, but for a very, very long time. And I think then also there's the fact that as someone who specifically in TTRPGs tends to play characters who have that sort of mentality and mindset where you don't talk a lot sometimes, but until you have something you need and want to say. And Wesley was very much that sort of man. And I think also it comes to the fact that I'm a writer. I have books out, so I like understand the flow of character and dialogue and like kind of internal thought processes and things like that, like from a creative standpoint. And that came into play, I think, even unconsciously because I can't not do it, just because of who I am as a creative person. But I think Wesley's poignancy kind of came in just from me being a performer for a very long time, me being in the TTRPG actual play space for a fair number of years now. Like it's a culmination of all of those things, I think. So thank you.
Hell yeah. Uh, since everybody else has gotten a specific one, I'll give myself a specific question. It was said that this was based on a short story of mine. What was the original ending to the story of Burnt Creek? Yes, for those of you that didn't know, the game Burnt Creek is based off of a short story of mine that I wrote 7 years ago at this point. Originally 7 years, 6, 7 years ago. The original story was about a reporter who was going to the town of Burnt Creek, trying to, figure out what was going on. And I believe the story ends with the uh, people of the town knocking her unconscious, throwing her in the church, burning the church down around her. She dies and is then reincarnated as the mother. So yeah, that's how the original
Ooh.
story goes.
Whoa.
Hell yeah.
Whoa.
I
Okay.
want to read
If you're
that now.
comfortable, I want to read it. Please.
Absolutely, I will send you
Gibby.
all. I will send you. It's
Cool.
to this day, it is it's one of the proudest things that I am of media that I have created. I'm very proud of that short story, and I'm very proud of this game that it has evolved into. It is a story that is very near and dear to my heart, and so I'm very glad that it uh, was came out as great as it did. So thank you all for that as well. Uh, Next up, a general question for everyone. Because this was a horror game, there were quite a number of scary elements, there were quite a number of scary scenes. What part of the game for you was the scariest?
It's less.
Um,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, please.
It was less the actual like visceral fear that this would have instilled because like I like really weird horror shit. I read it, I watch it, I watch The Witch. I love that movie. I love weird horror. My favorite reaction to that horror was Jahangir just saying his daughter's name. And I'm just like, ah, yeah, perfect, love it. Mwah.
Uh, my favorite, I mean, actually, like horrific moment was again, I love all the gory stuff. I get scared by it. Like I feel it in my bones. Like I get chills and everything, but I love it. It's like I'm a body horror fan, and uh, like I'm not triggered by it. I get scared by it. I'm not triggered by it, but like I don't know if it's a weird kind of a relationship because like I want more of it, but when I see it, like I'm scared of it. But like, yeah, please, I'm scared. Give me more. It's like this. So that moment when the girl she sort of transitioned, like all the okay, I'm not going to describe it again. But when all of that happened, I'm like, yeah, I feel it. It eviscerated a sort of feeling from me that I was like, yeah, I'm so glad I'm part of this.
I have a book for you later.
Me too.
Absolutely. Uh,
um.
yeah.
Okay. I think for me, because I part of being in performance business since I was 9 years old also involved, surprise, me being involved in a lot of Halloween stuff growing up. I've been an actor for haunted attractions, things like that. And growing up, I'd never really liked scary thing like horror kind of like movies or anything like that. But like in growing up and realizing like, oh wait, no, there are elements that you like. And surprise, you're a horror DM. Surprise, you weren't expecting that. Really? No, you weren't. Wow. But like I think just the moment in the church where we see Eden transforming was scary, but in a way where I'm just like, it's like because I'm going to describe it in a way that terrifies actual Melissa, where like where you would never catch me doing this ever in my life. Where again, either way, where you're on like a log flume at an amusement park, and you know it's like getting close to to like plunging down, where I that moment where Eden where she transformed into the daughter, I was like, no, this is the moment where shit's just gonna go down, and you have the kind of moment of like your stomach kind of like leaping and kind of turning over, and just that moment of horror was done so well. And I would obsessively watch the episodes in between the weeks just to remember everything and like look back on things and like visualize things. And like it took me forever to kind of figure out where Eden's wings went, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's where they are. But that's the thing about horror, is that it scares you but it can fascinate you too. And so just that whole sequence in the church, but also specifically like what just added to the horror was Jahangir collapsing and saying his daughter's name and reaching out. I'm like, there's that just sort of visceral deep fear that you can really only get in Call of Cthulhu. So I like all of that was just horrifying, but in a way that just really added to the campaign.
Um,
I,
yeah. So first off, The Witch, great movie. It's in like my top like 10 horror films. I
I need to watch
and
it then.
it's very good. The Vivitch, double V's. Oh no, it's really good. It's very fun. But off of that, there's all kinds of horror stuff that was very like scary and like visceral. But like typically the viscera and stuff doesn't like get to me. What I think was like the most irritating, not irritating, but like, you know, purposely irritating, right? Like the thing that bugged me the most horror wise was like the town's sort of like, once again, I don't care what religion you are as long as you're like not an ass. And it's like this portrayal of humanity sort of thing where like, yeah, like us transforming this little girl is just our religion. And that's not, you're right, like that's culty and that's like gross. And so I just don't like the like comfortability with betrayal of like personality and like self-belief, right? Like you should be able to believe in things and have a general moral code while also existing in your religion. And so like that for me was like the scary part, is like how quickly like really people can fall into stuff like that, and then seeing it like played out, and then like the pastor being the fucking responsible. Oh, I didn't tell you guys about that. Like I gotcha. And I was like, come on, dude. And so that was definitely like the horror part for me, is like the betrayal of like humanity.
Hell yeah. I like that. I like that we have a good mix of people whose like horror was the like visceral stuff, the body horror stuff, and how for some people the scariest part is like the deeper meaning behind it, and what accentuates out from there. Yeah, very cool.
If I can just interject, I think on the previous question, Melissa, you mentioned that again you've been part of like the performance art for a while. I think one thing, again, I haven't performed apart from these things at all. Uh, like TTRPGs was my way into like going to, like I was never a theater kid. I couldn't be a theater kid. They wouldn't have me. So uh, I think uh, workshops on actual play performance as opposed to TTRPG playing and actually actual play performance is something that I've started to focus more on these days. Especially, I think the term is dramaturgy of actual play is something I think that free workshops and all of these things can actually help elevate each and every performance, and not just performance but just the playing experience among players as well. So I think uh, yeah, we need more of those. Sorry, that was a different tangent that I went on. Yeah,
You're good. You're
I was
good.
just noting on that point. I just had to say it in case I forget it.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Next, we have a bit of a sillier, more fun question. If you could turn into any eldritch type horror, what would you be?
Father Dagon, Mother Hydra. Sorry, I know what those are. I know a little too much about Call of Cthulhu.
I admittedly do not know the specific names of monsters, so I don't know what those are.
Sorry.
Uh, I think I would turn to one of my own creations, one of my own dream monsters, eldritch monsters, who is just a big old snake full of eyes, and
Hell
whose
yeah.
opening is
Ooh.
just like a massive ball of different sorts of eyes of different sizes from different people, and that monster consumes the dreams and memories of everyone it haunts, and
Ooh.
it preys on the brain in such a way that the brain ends up smoothing out,
Hell yeah.
Oh shit.
and like people turn into veggies, and yeah, uh like that's the most, I love creating that eldritch monster so much. It's one of my favorite. I'll send you guys the picture that I drew of it. It's one of my favorites ever. So like I would turn into that.
God damn.
I would turn into the what is it? It's the color beyond human comprehension and the smell beyond human comprehension. If you've ever read any actual H.P. Lovecraft, he was actually a pretty shitty writer, and
Yeah.
he had a very hard time expressing how scary shit was. And one of his short
Yeah.
stories specifically, there's like a goop, but the goop is a color beyond human comprehension and a
It was magenta.
yeah, and a sound beyond human comprehension. He was just a weird guy and not a good guy and was not great at writing. But yeah, I would definitely be the thing beyond human comprehension.
I
Oh,
think
that's so good.
I would be like Amana. I would turn into one of my own creations because I'm a horror DM, so now you're going to get a little peek behind the curtain, as it were. But one of my monsters that I've created, his name is Puppeteer. Uh, let that sink in. He was a young man who went into this forest and was basically kind of lured into it by this god. And this god basically kind of rooted him in a church that was in the middle of the forest to the point where, body horror, trigger warning, where one of the tree roots would just go into his back and basically control him like a puppet. And he then would essentially like, and when I mean, and when I'm in his back, I mean in his back, up his spine, out his mouth. So yeah, just horrifying, disgusting, and then he would use the power of the forest and the trees to essentially harm or make issues for the party. And like, I didn't even really get to scratch the surface of how terrifying he could be, and but I have his like I have his stat block and everything. He was very, very bad, but that was the point. And like I think like ha- transforming into him would be uncomfortable but very interesting.
Yeah. I love you. I love all of y'all's. If I had to pick one of my own creation other than like Father Dagon, Hounds of Tindalos, which are like the dogs that like hunt down things that aren't supposed to be in like the angles of time because humans live in the curves of time. It's weird. Weird shit goes on in those stories. But there is something that I'm doing for Call of Cthulhu later on next year, on Game Master Mondays, most likely. Have you ever heard of No End House, and have you ever heard of the Elevator Game? Okay. Elevator Game, weird horror shit. It originated in Korea, and this game was played by people essentially almost with a death wish. It was an attempt to cross through dimensions, and the report was that you could almost die by doing this and be stuck in a dimension that is not yours. If you leave the elevator and there's something wrong, you don't notice it. No End House. It is a haunted house that like there's rooms numbered 1 through 12, and you go through each of them, and they're each like shoddily made rooms, and they get scarier and scarier the further you go in. And then you leave the house, and then you go home, and the number 13 is on your door. If I had to pick a creation, I'm picking the house.
God damn.
Ooh,
That's
Someone who may or may
coming
not
for
be in
Game
that
Master
category.
Mondays.
Foreshadowing.
Huh? What?
As someone
Sorry.
who may or may
That's
not be
good.
in that category, that's foreshadowing.
God dang, love it.
I,
If I had
I
to
didn't
pick,
drop his sheet at all already. Nope.
if I had to pick an Eldritch horror to be, first of all, my Elden Ring gamers are gonna know Estelle from I think Natural Born of the Void. This is real big, sort of like bug looking thing that's also made of stars and also has a skull that like is crashed in that has like a black hole inside the skull. It's really freaky looking. I
Wife.
thank you. Thank you. Um Either that or shout out to my fellow Magic the Gathering players, Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. I love all the Eldrazi. Emrakul is so baby girl. I love her so much.
Okay, if I had to pick an Eldrazi, I'd pick Kozilek. I love Kozilek. He's great. He's the great distortion. He distorts reality. Better than Emerald Cool. Fight me on it.
I will fight you on that. We could fight sometime about that. Next up, another question. This one is a general question for everyone. It felt like everyone put a piece of their own identity into their characters. Was this intentional on the group's part, and what other similarities do you have with your characters?
I'll go first. Because I kind of already answered my question. I was raised Catholic, and I was Catholic for a very long time. And like I said, I've done all this stuff. I've done confession. I find a lot of humor in having been Catholic because it's a lot of it's very funny. But yeah, I put a lot of that, a lot of like the sort of belief system into Father Torres, and then obviously he's Hispanic, I'm Hispanic. I think that's just like most of my characters exist that way. I'm trying to think of like anything else that I brought to him that was like particularly like me, like maybe that I brought accidentally. I do think, and I think this at least there was this stoicism to Father Torres in the face of like adversity. Like there was a lot of like the anytime it did help that I kept rolling well on sanity. But anytime something shitty happened, he just counted his beads and did his prayer. And I've very the job I work in is very intense, and I do a lot of very intense stuff. And I'm typically pretty solid at crisis situations, and so I felt like his calmness and stoicism in crisis situations, for the most part, was is like a bit of me. And I think it's just that like kind of part of you is sometimes depending on how like you've gone about things a little fried or a little tired out, so you don't always react the same way to certain things.
Oh,
I think for
okay.
me, oh, do you want you?
No,
You go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Pro.
Good, good.
Okay. I think for me, well, Wesley has cerebral palsy, and so do I. I tend to always bring disabled characters to the table because just having the representation in any TTRPG, it's possible. Just do it if you want to. Do it respectfully. Do it. It's good. But him having cerebral palsy was definitely something that I had planned from the beginning because like that's just what I do naturally in terms of when I make characters. I make them disabled in some way, but also oddly enough, and this is going to sound strange because like Wesley is a doctor, and I've played nearly 30 clerics in D&D. However, because of being disabled for my entire life and all that comes with that, surgeries, medical appointments, everything else, I have an incredible fear of any medical work to the point where when I'm in an exam room, my blood pressure goes up. Just nothing happens. It's up. And I have to say, like, can we do my blood pressure at the end? Because it's going to be high regardless of what happens. And so I think playing Wesley and playing clerics, like, is a way for me to cope with my medical trauma and just not in a way of being therapy or anything, just basically being like, okay, like, here is like here's what this is and like here's what they can do and like just kind of like going through the motions. But I think playing Wesley kind of gave me that sort of not catharsis but just that kind of like mindset for a little bit. But he also puts himself before others a lot of the time. He had that mindset where even though he had consumption, he was like, no, I need to go to Montana and do what I have to do, regardless of what's happening to me. And then I'll take care of myself. And I'm that person as well. I play characters like that as well. So I think him having cerebral palsy is a given because, of course, him being just another medically aligned character that I've brought to the table, he'd be cool with not all of, most of my clerics, not all of them, most of them. But like, and just him putting himself before others, even in the face of eldritch horror, like I think that, like he kind of really tied up very nicely for me. I think at least that's the way I played him. I think at least.
I think with Jahangir, there are some aspects. I mean, most of them didn't come into play, which I'm fine with, but some of them were kind of autobiographical. Um, uh, Jahangir being a bit timid and just following what everybody tells them, uh, which doesn't necessarily came into play, but was part of, who they are, is me. Basically, I am a scared little 30-year-old. I'm like, okay, adulting is hard. I've been an adult for a while, and I still haven't gotten that shit figured out. Uh, so yeah, that sort of thing was kind of biographical for me, and a couple of other things which you know you can guess about it. I'm not gonna say it, uh, but I think one of the other things that I really not wanted to do, but I really wanted to explore was, just how a person who is religious, like I am religious, and I believe Jahangir is also religious. How does that factor in when the faith that you're trying to follow, all the other followers of the faith are telling you you're doing something wrong, but you don't feel. I mean, what's your relationship with your faith then? Do you just give up on it, or do you find a middle ground, find some solace with what you have been following all of these years as well? Um, uh, like for example, Jahangir is bisexual, but he is more he leans more towards the same-sex relationships. So, and in Islam, again, everything if you read it, it's bad, it's wrong. You should not do it. That's what it is. And me being a religious person, like even I had to come to terms with, okay, what is my relationship with Islam? Because I know I'm a religious person. I try to follow all the tenets of Islam, and this is a way for me to explore through fiction, through the lens of other characters who are going through things which are completely contradictory to what they're following, to figure out, okay, where is my place in this, and how to make peace with it in a way. So, uh, yeah, that that is also the reason I wanted to get into the skin of Jahangir.
Now I feel really awkward because my all my characters are just really autistic. Um,
Mm.
um, so I don't think I've ever made a not autistic character. I don't think that's in me. The like how like a neurotypical person. I no, it does not exist in my wheelhouse because I'm not neurotypical. I don't know how they think. I can mirror somebody who is neurotypical, but I'm never neurotypical. Okay, so Dungeon Meshi, you've seen Kabru, right? That man is autistic. That man is autistic, just as autistic as Laios. He just uses it as for people. Laios, autism to monsters. Kabru, autism to people. Yes, it's like a special interest in the social interactions and a special interest and learning how to navigate those social interactions. Does it look like manipulation? Yeah, but when everybody else is already manipulating you, what are you supposed to do to survive? So it's very much
Yeah.
like the autism. I am autistic. All of my characters are autistic, and all my characters also probably have ADHD. Um, I'm also so this is not a well-known fact about me in the TTRPG space. I'm medically diagnosed as schizoaffective, um, which is schizophrenia plus either depression or bipolar disorder. Take your pick. Um, so it's very weird to live in that space where like you have schizoaffective disorder and schizophrenia spectrum disorder, and there's a lot of stigma around it. And I don't think that I've made a character that has been so open about it ever, and I need to do that next.
Yeah, I love how much you guys put yourselves into the characters. It feels very real. It feels very honest, and it truly this is what representation is like both players and characters showing up, and absolutely, it was awesome. Hell
Jellyfish, are you by any chance a deer as well?
No, unfortunately not. I just live in an area with a lot of deer.
ah
We have a local
ah
metro park that has a lot of deer. We occasionally get a Lewistic one, which is just white with blue eyes. Really cool deer.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That's
we'll occasionally
cool.
get a Lewistic one. It hasn't happened in years, but we might get lucky. So fingers crossed. I love rare deer. I love them. Yeah. If you see a piebald deer, it's sad actually. Don't. It's sad for a piebald deer.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
uh Next up, we have another specific question. This one for Adam. Father Torres said that he was looking to see what the rest of the world was like. I was wondering if you could tell a little bit more about that. What inspired that?
um, Sorry, I'm like, what episode did I say that? I'm sure I said it. Like, when did I say that? I think that at least like growing up Hispanic Catholic, and then I know that like some Irish Catholic have really similar upbringings, but you sort of know one concept of things, and then like at least for me, hitting like later on in high school, and then like in college, is when I like really started to like meet more people, and I started like hanging out with. I mean, I've always hung out with like a diverse group, but um, it's this thing of like not everything's in your bubble, and I think if anyone would feel like they have a bubble to stay in, it's a Catholic priest. And I thought that it would be interesting for Father Torres to not want to be in that bubble, because you can't be good at a job like being like someone who delivers like proper religion without understanding and comprehending multiple other religions, and multiple other like ways and walks of life. And so I think that like that was sort of the general vibe for that.
Hell yeah. Next question. This one is a specific one for me. Izzy's pacing was perfect this series. Oh, thank you so much. What's her secret? My secret is autism. That is that.
Secret
That's
sauce.
mine too.
That's what
That's
it.
mine too.
It. I mean, it is
Secret
a.
sauce is
Yeah.
autism.
Yeah, baby, we love it. It is. I mean, like, as both a joke answer and a serious answer, that is what it is. I part of masking and existing in the world as an autistic person is learning the flow of conversation and when you can or cannot say something or jump in, and learning how to pace how much or how little you are talking to match the people around you, and those just so happen to be very important skills when it comes to pacing a TTRPG. I find that pacing is something that I do quite well, both in home games and on stream games. I find that I do pacing quite well, so I'm very happy that that is coming through. Hell yeah. Uh, this one is a personal question from me to my players. Obviously, Call of Cthulhu is a deadly system. Were you expecting your characters to survive? Were you expecting your characters to die? What were you
No.
expecting?
I
I was
fully
I was
expected death.
Yeah, I was trying to die that last episode. I was like, let's fucking get killed. I don't know if you guys caught that or not, but I was like, I'm gonna go punch him. Like I was like, it's time to crash out. It's time for our characters to die. We've done too well, too long.
Cash out.
Yeah, and then we did great.
We are
Yeah.
used cars. Our characters are used cars.
I didn't lose a single hit point, and I'm very surprised. I had, I think, 13 hit points, and I didn't lose any
Holy
one
shit.
of them. And I'm just like, okay. And but also part of that was because I had I maybe had spent 1 luck point and then was able to spend 21 luck points to dodge out of the way of a fucking water lizard tail. But like I was expecting, I had plans for if Wesley died. I had plans for if he survived. Well, I didn't have plans if he died because if he's dead, he's dead. But I had plans if he survived. If he died, I'm like, it's Call of Cthulhu. That happens. But also as someone who, regardless of what system I'm in, usually, I play the healer 99.9% of the time, and Wesley was that healer. I'm like, no, I know how fragile we are in Call of Cthulhu. I am not letting us walk into this without someone who knows medicine. I cannot do that. I can't do that. So, but with that, I knew how fragile we all were just as characters. And so when the combat in the church started, I'm like, combat in Call of Cthulhu means dead.
Yeah.
And when Dallas was down to 5 hit points, I'm just like, oh no, I have to get to him immediately. Oh no, it was just a whole new layer of me being a healer maiden, being like, oh, if you can't get to them, it's not death saves, they're dead. Just dead. I'm just like, this is pressure, elective pressure on me. And so it was really cool, which is odd to say about that, but it was just so much fun. Again, odd to say about that, but I was expecting us to die, but I was also expecting that we would survive. So it was kind of like either or.
This is like 5 out of 7 characters of mine in Call of Cthulhu that have lived.
It's crazy numbers. Here's my thing.
You gotta
I was
have
a
to change
priest,
that.
and you can't die if life is eternal, right? You know, like you can't. I believed in God. I was Catholic. I was like, I can't die. There's no death for Father Torres. And also I felt like we were doing too well. I was like, I gotta shake it up. And so I was like, I'm gonna go punch the pastor. He pissed me off last episode. Let's start it off with a bang.
Let's go.
Not,
Let's fucking go.
Not gonna lie, the moment Jahangir was piercing the father with the police badge, I was fully expecting Jahangir to get dismembered at that point. I was like, okay, here goes nothing. I'm just gonna provoke this. I'm gonna poke the bear. Literally.
I'll kind of confide in you guys. So for my podcast, 5 GM's Trench Coat, I'm kind of like the problem player. Not really, but I just like make calls. I just do crazy shit sometimes. And Grant pitched me being in this game and was like, "Hey, like, you know, you're that asshole. Would you like to be that asshole for like a new DM?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I'd love that." And you know, Grant told me that it was Izzy's first time, or like one of like your first times like streaming and doing things like this for you know, he wanted to highlight you. And so I was like teetering it out because obviously I don't want to blow up your spot. And then I was like, man, I feel like I haven't done anything crazy. And I was like, nah, I'm just gonna punch him. And because I was like, well, I got brought in to do crazy shit. I haven't really done crazy shit. I've been poignant this whole game, and that's not fun for anybody.
Hey, at Grant, you brought me in because I asked on hard as a dungeon, and you liked me on hard as a dungeon. I I don't know what the fuck you were expecting, but I don't think it was Dallas.
Yeah, Grant, I don't know
You're
what
a
you were
little dear
expecting because
boy.
yeah, little ugly dear boy. I don't know what you were expecting with me either, Grant, because apart from when you recruited me, we had never spoken to each other. You have no idea what characters I played. You had no idea what I've done, and I'm just like, I realize it's ominous,
And
whatever. Like, it's like, or he was like, here's a Call of Cthulhu casting call. I'm like, I've wanted to play for years. Is this my moment? And it was my moment. And I'm like, Burnt Creek, bus, cliff, eldritch horrors in the bayou. We're gonna be injured the second that fucking bus lands. I need to be a healer. Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh.
honestly, I don't know. Again, same as same as Jelly, same as Melissa. I don't know, Grant, what you saw in me, but I mean, you have some sixth sense, my dude. Uh, you have some. I mean, yeah, like
Yeah.
this was a good party.
Yeah.
This,
We
He saw
loved it,
me as a sad sap who missed his wife. That's what he saw.
and
I
that turned out to be me
I have no idea what
and
Grant
Melissa.
has seen me as. I think the only thing that is out that I have done before this was as a player, so hey, hell yeah. Absolutely awesome. Yeah, I do remember in like the pre-planning when we were talking about characters and Amon was like, "Is Call of Cthulhu a deadly game system?" And almost
Unanimous,
unanimously we're
yes.
all like, "Yes, yeah, very likely somebody dies by the end of this." It did incredible. You guys just kept succeeding and then had massive amounts of luck that you were just like, "Yeah, why not? It's the last episode. Let's just throw
Ye-
this out there and." Get it and hell yeah, absolutely love it.
We had some clutch rolls though.
We
We
did.
did.
Uh,
Oh my
Yeah.
god, Dallas with the extreme
15
success right at the end. Oh my
with the
god,
15, and I need just 1 point to get down to 14.
there you go. Hell yeah. Let's see.
Really quickly, I apologize. If you want to do like some rapid fire, or if you guys have any personal questions for me, because I did inform you guys I do have to step off shortly. I just want to give you that like 5-minute warning.
Mhm.
We've covered everything in the Q&A doc that is specifically for you, but if anybody
Awesome.
here has any specific questions for Adam and wants to shoot them off.
You wanna sign my casting call?
Oh yes.
Um,
Sorry,
really
I'm
quick.
back at work.
Really quick. Just as the cleric man that I am, I have to know this about Father Torres because I was like trying to like think about like what your response to this would be. If he was a cleric in D&D, what domain would he be?
That's a great question. I think Father Torres. Let me think. Oh my goodness, that's a really good question. Because I feel like he's like, maybe I'm like the ones I'm thinking are like either like Tempest or like Forge. Specifically because I think he's very like he's like very like stalwart. But like for Tempest, I think he like did cool shit when it mattered, right? Like, you know, and Tempest could like
Yeah.
do an explosive amount of damage randomly. And so I think it's leaning that way, either being like very stalwart, very wall-esque, very like support, or being very like, I can use this when I need it. Like I can do this when I need it.
Nice. Nice.
Also, a quick question: would Father Torres would have been in contact with the other members like post the events or ever come across them? But because Jahangir would certainly would try to reach out or try to find.
I don't think he's like actively avoiding, but he's like a traveling priest. He's just always kind of going around. Like he gets into town, goes to a mass, then like observes a mass, then participates in a mass, and then goes back around. Like he's always moving around for his job. And I think he did like lean into the exorcism thing more. But I'm sure if he like reached out, I don't think he would ignore you. He's a normal guy.
One other thing. About 5 years later, y'all would have gotten a letter from Dallas. Don't know how, you don't know why, don't know how he would have found you. We found you.
Mhm.
I'd exercise you. I'd
Nice.
exercise you. I did it once. I could do it again.
I'll do it again. God damn it. Yeah. Before you head out, what was your favorite part about working with everyone?
That's a great question, and it's oh my goodness. So this has been really fun. It was just kind of insanely enjoyable, and it was at an interesting point when I like agreed to be on it and started being on it. It was an interesting point for me because like obviously we all have to deal with that little bit of imposter syndrome sometimes, and I don't know if Amon's having that with the whole crit awards thing, but it was like really stressful for me because like we got nominated and we were like, I feel like 5 GMs is fairly small, and I was like, we're not gonna get it. And I like convinced myself I didn't want to win, and then like the closer I got, I was like, I want to win this so fucking bad. I want to win, and so like I was like contending with that and like working with you guys, and so you guys have just been an absolute delight, and I think that there's something very special about like Jellyfish's like way of integrating their character into the story. Like I don't do that super often. I think that's more because I DM or GM a lot of the time. Like I GM my home campaign, and so I always kind of try to have a character that's like less important to the story, more so I can, as a GM, help out like other GMs if they need something, and so that way my character metagaming doesn't matter as much. And that's just a personal like tick I have, but I really appreciated the way you integrated yourself and your character into the world. Melissa, like just playing with someone who's so like integrally understood their character was really interesting. I think that like having a character that like it's because like I feel like all of us obviously had like a little slice of our character in like that is ourselves, but like someone that like I truly feel like you embodied your character well, and like that's coming from the point of like I thought the good doctor was a little annoying sometimes. Like I think that like Father Torres found the doctor annoying at points, but I think that that's something so special as a player to be able to do because like you're so scared of like irritating the other characters, right? Like you want everyone to be cool. And I know there was a point where like I was very clear with like Father Torres, where he's like, we're not friends, we're all in this fucked up situation, and so that's very special. I like that a lot. And then Amon, I think that like your overall storytelling and like your kind of like absolute like skill and like masterful like playing. I don't know. Like I was a little surprised to hear you haven't been doing it very long. I was like, dude, like what the fuck? Like, um, you're like you're an absolute force, and I can't wait to see you in other shit. And Izzy, I really there's something to be said about like I don't want to say like because it sounds weird, but so there's something to be said about like blank space or like absence, and you really know how to let like your players fester for a second before jumping back in as a DM. Because sometimes I think, especially in like games like this and in horror, right, letting the brain run is going to be scarier than like 90% of the time than being like the monster jumped out and you couldn't understand it because your brain can't comprehend it. It's beyond your comprehension, and there's something far scarier about being like, oh, it's dark and quiet, and then just letting us be like, what the fuck, for like 5 minutes, and letting us play and interplay. Like you allowed us to flesh out the story on our own with minimal hand holding and like enough. Like I was just well placed when you were like the authoritative DM or GM. That was really impressive. And I mean, once again, my whole podcast is about GMing. There's 5 of us. We rotate. We all have different GM styles. We tote ourselves on being GMs, right? We're 5 GMs in a trench coat. And so like that is such an absolute skill in GMing to see. And I don't think we get enough of it in the space. Like obviously, sorry, I'm going long-winded on this. I got excited. You guys are awesome. But I think we don't get enough in the space because, like, when you think about the people that we get to see do the big stuff, right? Like, obviously, there's all of us, and there's like Grant and these amazing people. But we're talking like the big things that like are ubiquitous and everyone knows. We have like Critical Role and Dimension 20 and all that, and they're so long-winded. I love them, but like Jesus Christ, Matthew Mercer, shut the fuck up sometimes. Like we get it. You're good at your job. We know. We all know. I really hope this doesn't get around to like anyone even kind of, because Matthew Versus is really cool and does a lot of cool stuff for the community. But we get it. Go write a book. Sometimes you got to let your players play, and I think that Izzy like masterfully does that. And now that I've alienated myself from everyone who watches Critical Role, I'll go and bow out. Thank you guys so much for having me again. I'm gonna do a quick sign off. Adam 5GMs in a trench coat at 5GMs official at 5GMs trench coat, and then you can find me at Adam 5GMs on X and Instagram and things like that. This was so much fun. I tweeted recently, if you want to have me on something, message me. I'll pop in for like 5 minutes. I'll do a stupid voice and then like leave. Like, if you want me on an AP or something, I'll do it. I don't care. I love stuff like this. But thank you guys so much, and I'm gonna wave bye.
Sign up for my Triangle Agency podcast.
I will.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello.
Was Adam. Hello. Now that it is us, hold on, let me see. Can I? Aha, I can. Sorry, I just had to fix something on the stream real quick. All right. Yeah, that was Adam had to go a little bit early. We still have a couple of questions, and then I'll open it up to everybody here for questions for one another. This question for me, there's a couple for me. Feels weird, but I'm happy that
I gave you
people
one
ask
earlier.
questions. I know you did. I saw. Izzy, what was the most surprising choice or role that somebody made in the game? What was the most surprising? I think all of the characters at some point really did surprise me. So I think if that's all right, I'll go down the line of everybody surprising me. Amon, I think, surprised me with how open and conversational he was, Jahangir was, because my understanding of the character before starting the game was that Jahangir was going to be fairly secretive, fairly like locked away with his past and what he was doing and what he was going through, and so to see him talk to others about it, to rely on others, to have those very in-depth conversations, in particular the like sin and forgiveness conversation with Father Torres. That was very surprising and very good. I absolutely loved that. Uh, Father Torres, Adam literally just left, but I'm going to talk about him anyways. Surprising me was what he had actually mentioned was third episode, running right into it, going like, yeah, all right, just gonna punch him, just gonna get it started. I was like, it's gonna come to blows at some point. Who's gonna be the first one to do it? And was not. Father Torres was second least expected character to do that, to start throwing hands, but absolutely loved it. Um, for Dallas, for Jellyfish, fully expect, like, up until the last moment, was not sure if Dallas was going to join Burned Creek or turn it into Burning Creek. Wasn't sure if it was going to be Set Fire, if you were going to, take up the mantle. So either way you went with that, I would have been surprised, and was very pleasantly surprised to see that. So absolutely loved it. Uh, Dr. Wesley Merrill. What surprised me from Merrill? I think what surprised me from the Doctor was how much he sort of threw himself into the group, how caring he was for all of the other characters when, we had talked and you had mentioned to me like what his backstory was and how important what he, where he was going and what he was planning to do, how important that was to him. So I was maybe expecting him to be more self-preserving and less selfless than he wound up being. But then again, he is a doctor, so that is part of it. So absolutely love that.
His need to help is intrinsic. He can't turn it off. And as someone who was a doctor during the 1918 flu pandemic, he's seen emergency. He knows what that is, and so it's kind of probably a little bit like on just reflexive of like, okay, here's an emergency because what you have to do. And so I think it was kind of just like functioning on just his past like how he deals with crisis, but in this realm of okay, if I am the only doctor in this town, that's it. But it's okay. I'll help however I can. Like he's not gonna not help someone, I think.
Hell yeah. This next one for everybody is another personal one from me. I know that when I make a character, what comes from the initial concept and what the final result are not always matching or not necessarily one and the same. For our players, what is something that you may have left on the cutting room floor for characters? What is something that you uh, didn't, bring into the final game? What is something you thought you would bring in, but you weren't sure? Or what is something you added last minute or something like that?
Can I say something?
Go for it.
One of the first things that went onto the cutting room floor was Dallas being human. No, absolutely not. Like, no. And also, Dallas was supposed to be a little bit more conniving and evil than what he was.
I was wondering why you were apologizing to us. I'm like, why?
I'm so sorry, y'all. But he was supposed to be more conniving and more evil than what he was. If you guys would have gotten in his way, he most likely would have, mauled one of you. But Dallas being who/what he is like he was raised amongst people, but people didn't care for him because, autism allegory. But he was very much that very odd person, in like, how like people back in the 1920s. So this is getting into like the history of the United States. The United States once had ugly laws. Ugly laws quite literally kept disabled people from public life. You were left in your house to rot. And that was it. You weren't allowed out in public at all whatsoever. These were actual laws that were on the books until the 1970s in the United States in some places. Dallas would have, if he would have grown his antlers, if he would have sharpened his canines, he would have been on those ugly laws. He would have been underneath that. Dallas, I wanted to mention that Dallas had never been to a dentist and that was related to his teeth growing in, his deer molars.
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, that's also like one of the parts which was like, okay, we are going freaky with Dallas. I was really interested, but like I love the fact that you mentioned about the ugly laws, because I'm not aware of them, but it's good to be made aware now and then about these things. For Jahangir, I believe Jahangir was supposed to be a bit more feisty, a bit more you know especially with the history with the what he left out in New York. I think that was supposed to go into a more direction of, okay, he's gonna be quiet, but he is gonna like you know when the time comes, he's gonna go John Wick on you, something like that. I thought I was thinking along something along the line, but the more I kept thinking about it, I was like, the closer we got to the actual game, I was like, no, I think I'm gonna remove that, and I'm just gonna make him a cute baby, like just like baby girl, please be safe, kind of a uh, kind of a
Jahangir
person.
is baby girl.
Love
Jahangir is baby
Oh,
girl.
Jahangir is certified baby girl.
certified. Absolutely. Love him.
I feel
Oh
like
yeah,
I feel like one of us is Blorbo. I don't know who is.
one of us is who?
Blorbo. Blorbo. Okay, have you ever played Disco Elysium and have you ever heard of Harry Dubois? Okay, Harry Dubois is Blorbo. Usually Blorbo from your shows is like the background character that like nobody else cares about, but you care. You absolutely love them. Except sometimes, occasionally, they're like a main character, like Harry Dubois from the hit indie award-winning game Disco Elysium.
Disco
Sorry, I love that
Elysium.
game. Yeah, good game, really good game. Please play it. But essentially, I feel like one of us is at least Blorbo. I also feel like I feel like one of us is either Blorbo. I already know who Baby Girl is. It's Jahangir. But I don't know who's Blorbo yet.
For
One of
me, oh, sorry,
yeah. No, I'm just
You're
just
fine.
just just finishing on that point. Like I didn't expect Jahangir's daughter's role to factor in so much during the game, because when I was writing that, I was like, okay, and that's one other bad thing that happened in Jahangir's life. Not the daughter, but that he wasn't able to see her or do that. But I wasn't expecting it to amount to much, because I was like, oh, Jahangir's gonna die anyway. Uh, so, uh, so so having that factor in to the game and to the post credit, and how after the game where Jellyfish and Melissa and I were sort of sat and like, what would actually happen like 5 years later? We talked about 6 months later during the game. What about 5 years later? Where are they then? So like, yeah. By For people who are listening, uh, Jahangir is able to get his daughter back, and she grows up with two loving daddies.
I think for Wesley, a lot of him developed like as the game was going on, which is not normal for me. Usually, like if Izzy had told us, "Give me a backstory, Doc," I would have been like, "Give me like an hour and you've got it." But in the future, because I hope you are my keeper /GM /DM again, Izzy. Expect a document, multi-page document. Anyway, that is a glimpse into the future. But anyway, I think for Wesley, I knew that him going up to Montana to deliver a baby was the thing that was happening, because being me, being autistic, because for someone who is terrified of medicine, I researched it a lot. I have no idea why, but I do. And so I was researching medicine in the 20s and like how certain conditions were and everything else, and I'm like, oh, remote hold. How was this back then? And so I was like, oh, it was bad. Oh, so wait, hang on. So you're saying that? Oh, okay. So hang on, you're saying that if birth happened here, it's usually in the house because they couldn't get to it. Okay, here's what we're doing. Okay. So that was organic, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, hang on, wait, let me have this baby be Wesley's. And let me have him consider this woman his fiance. Let me develop this whole past, everything else. And there was a bunch of other things that like I ultimately decided against, because I'm like, no, it's too dark. No, 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 no. What?
What was it?
Like, mm-mm.
Damn.
But just developing Wesley was more of a gradual process, which was new for me, because usually I'm like, no, here you are, here's everything, here's your backstory, here's this, here's like an entire sheet of just basic like basic qualifiers and like basic identification, like here's that, and then here's the backstory that's like, oh, that's like maybe a page and a half or 2 pages, and it like, but with Wesley it was like, oh no, here you have this idea, okay, you have this idea, okay, you have this idea, and like, oh, we have to prepare epilogue stuff, I've already got that prepared if he survives, and his daughter's name took, because researching again names in the 20s took me days to decide on. And also, Wesley, he goes on to leave rural Montana and go live in upstate New York with his wife and their daughter, and they eventually have two more children, Irene and William. And Wesley never goes near a body of water ever again, and only his wife knows why.
Oh,
so yeah.
And also, Jahangir and Wesley totally
Yes.
meet up, and like the
Yes, they do.
families do spend at least one holiday together.
Pictures, yes, pictures, and just pictures, and just I think they do really communicate, and like I think they like develop over decades and years of just correspondence, and just
Oh
like
yeah.
because like it's kind of like intrinsically just like we went through this horrifying thing together. We're really the only two people in each other's lives that we still have like regular contact with that fully understand what's going on. So I think we kind of like leaned on each other like over the next
Mm.
decades or so.
So you get a
And also,
fucking letter
you
afterward.
yeah, out of the blue, 5 years later, like holy shit, Dallas is still alive. I should have shot him.
Like I think if cell phones were available back then, like I think if Wesley had gotten the letter from Dallas, he would have texted Jughead being like, "Yo, dear boy, you too, you too, you too." I'm just you too, like you too, shocked emoji, you too, dear emoji, you too, scared emoji, like basically just 3 separate text
And then
messages.
Dallas just sends a group text with like the goat emoji.
I
Like,
lived,
the goat is
bitch.
back.
You forgot you made a group chat.
Return to the king, baby.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh my
But
god.
Melissa, it's really interesting that you thought like for days about what was the child's name. Where I like literally thought for like, oh, holy shit, what's the name of the daughter? I haven't even thought about it, and I'm like, okay, what's going to be the name of the daughter? And
Cthulhu.
like immediately just went to like two or three names that I know which I really love. So one of them was Shari.
Mhm.
Uh, and Shari is also the name of one of my friends, and I really love her name. And so like I was like, yeah, that's gonna be the name. Immediately,
Oh,
I didn't put much thought into it, but I was like, okay,
So you did. You wanted it to be special, and it was.
it was.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. With that, I'd like to open up the floor to all of you. If there's questions you would like to ask each other, questions you would like to ask the entire group, questions you would like to ask me, what are y'all's questions?
I feel like I'm going to get a little bit because of like, what the fuck is wrong with you with Dallas? What? Why the fuck would you do
What the
that?
fuck?
Dallas, why? Uh, just in general. I know Grant has stuff planned into eons from now, but should we come back and play D&D? Maybe, maybe.
I love you so much. I love you so much, Melissa. I don't like D&D. I have taken a vow to never play it again.
Call of Cthulhu.
I would 100%. Would y'all like to see me GM?
Sure, if you want to.
Hell yeah, why not?
Yeah, I love Call of Cthulhu. It was the game that got me into TTRPGs. And this whole game felt like coming home. Like this is like what got me into games like this. So it's just like yippee! It's very strange to like feel like coming home to like a house that you didn't even realize was yours. And it's just like, oh,
Ooh, that's a
I
good
love
line.
this. Yeah, you can steal it.
Really good. Good line. Very good.
Steal it. It's okay. But honestly, I'm also really excited to keep GMing. My first GM live stream was for Palestine, was a fundraiser for Palestine. I ran Eyes on the Prize. Okay, running is very loose here. I just made sure that my players were on task because it's a GM-less game traditionally, and it's
Made
very
sure that
fun.
eyes was on the prize.
Yes, it's a fake marriage AU game.
Oh,
It was fake marriage AU games, and I'm just like, I know what I'm gonna run immediately. Eyes on the Prize. But that was my first one. It was romance. It was like a rom-com fucking bullshit. And I'm like, yeah, you want to know what they say about comedy actors? they do really good serious shit when given the chance. A lot of good comedy actors also do really great horror. Uh, I I love horror. I My wheelhouse is horror and also like very bleak movies. I was 9 years old when I watched Children of Men for the first time. It was a great movie. Don't watch Children of Men if you are depressed. Also, don't watch it if you're in the UK. That's a little too close to home for y'all right now. Um, and some of the most amazing shots in cinema are in Children of Men. It's also one of the bleakest movies I've ever fucking seen. That influenced a lot of how I run games. I was 9 year old. I was 9 years old. You shouldn't. I don't think a 9 year old should be watching Children of Men. But thank you, Dad. My dad watched a lot of like horror movies and like really bleak movies with me as like family movies for like the entire family. And like we watched The Conjuring when I was 12, and he and my sister went off to go watch Family Guy in the other room, terrified, quaking in their socks. And me and my mom were like, "No, you're coming back out here. You made us watch this movie. You're finishing it."
Truly, there is no
Wow.
stronger opposite of The Conjuring than Family Guy. So complete opposites.
I think it was either Family Guy or SpongeBob. Either which, complete polar opposites.
Even better. Even better. Love it.
Oh my god! But yeah, do y'all have any influential horror movies in your lives that like are like solid like core memory, like brain rewiring? Oh, I get it. Like me when I saw Ellen Ripley in Alien, and also me when I saw the Xenomorph in Alien.
Oh, okay. Well, those were brain rewiring for a different reason.
Same reason.
Well, okay. For me, Silence of the Lambs.
Oh,
Absolutely. Just the idea of like the like quote unquote villain, or like the like somebody you're not supposed to root for, somebody you're not supposed to like, being so interesting that they are like not the main character, but they are like such a huge aspect of it. Like, I
Blurbo
absolutely
from my
love it.
movie.
Absolutely love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I also really liked Silence of the Lambs. Also, Anthony Hopkins, also autistic. Love him.
Love him to death.
Uh,
So mm, a
yes, go
couple
ahead.
of like movies which influenced me, which like I didn't again all these movies that you guys are mentioning, I didn't watch them until I was like an adult. Um, like because again it was again we didn't get to watch a lot of English movies anyway while we were growing up. So two movies, Hindi movies actually, which were which were like horrifying but really interesting. One of which is called Makadi. So Makadi means spider. Uh, and it was a movie which was based around two twin girls, around 10, 11 years of age, somewhere around that, very young. They're in a village, and one of them gets abducted, or abducted by a supposed witch, uh, who lives in this like abandoned villa, like somewhere in the jungle. And that was and apparently it's in the movie she gets turned into a small a small goat's baby. uh,
A kid. Oh my
uh,
god.
and again spoilers, it's she doesn't actually get turned into a baby. She just goes into a mine below where where she's digging for gold, on as a sort of like a quote unquote slave of the witch lady. There aren't any actually ghosts involved in it, but it's made in such a way that it looks and feels horrifying. It's horror without the supernatural aspect to it.
Mhm.
Much like Silence of the Lambs, where it's horror without, supernatural aspect to it. Another movie uh, was called Darna Mana Hai, which means uh, which roughly translates to being afraid is forbidden. Where on a highway or on a highway trip, like a with a bunch of friends, uh, their car breaks down in the middle of the night, and they're like looking for a refuge, and they find this uh, this broken ass home somewhere, and they just sit around, and all of them are like, we have to pass the time in the like the morning time. The people will come and they'll fix our car, but for now, let's just sit around and let's just tell scary stories to each other. So every single person has a scary story that they say, and which like cuts to a sort of a short film inside a film in itself, as they're telling the story. And each of them like takes an excuse to take a leak, or go talk to someone or do something, and each of them gets killed one after the other after they finish their story. um, so yeah, that's like one of my. I got shit scared of like traveling on highways after that. I was a kid, so even though I was traveling with my mom and dad and my brothers and sisters, like I was like shit scared. Like I hope our car doesn't break down at all. I am scared for my life. So yeah, those were two formative movies, like which form what my experience with the horror genre is, which isn't horror, but it was it gives you the feeling that something is about, which shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
For me, oh, continue. You were opening your
Sorry,
mouth.
go
Continue.
ahead. Sorry, I said I love that.
Oh, for me, I'm still not into horror movies per se, just because I'm a little scaredy cat, which is odd because I'm a horror DM. Like, make that what you will. But like in terms of like horror themed media that even that have influenced me, even just like in general. My first anime that I completed ever, not the first anime that I watched ever. My first anime that I completed ever, and I I shouldn't this shouldn't have been the first one. Shouldn't have been the first one at all. Was Higurashi no Nakakoro ni, otherwise known as When the Cicadas Cry. It is about these kids who grow up in this tiny town of Hinamizawa, and they learn that they are caught in a time loop where every single time someone goes missing and someone dies. Every single time. And it's just, but I don't know why this was the first anime I ever completed. No idea why. But it was. It opened a huge door for me. But then in addition to that, there is just Never After from Dimension 20, because I love Grimm's fairy tales. I love them. I've always loved that kind of. I've always loved that kind of stuff. Because I've always been into that sort of thing, and so just influence of Grimm's fairy tales, like were very very big in terms of like the horror that I realized what I liked, and that kind of just went from there.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple horror books that have changed like my whole outlook on horror. Some of them I have presently. One moment. And grab that one. One last one. Okay. So, first big one, The Fisherman. This is a cosmic horror set in New York, upstate New York. Two guys go fishing. I'm not telling you the rest.
Where in upstate New York? Because I have opinions.
Woods around Woodstock, Dutchman's Creek.
Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. Believable.
All right.
Believable.
Truly, there is no greater horror than Albany.
Our Wives Under the Sea, the horror that is grief, and grief as an emotion and as a state of mind and physicality. Woman's wife goes into a diving bell for a research thing for her job and comes back not quite right. Annihilation. This is actually the Southern Reach trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. Very good books. Weird eldritch shit happens in here in all 3 books, and it's going to be a 4th one soon. Trilogy, 4th book. Yeah, I know, but also it's been 10 years.
Was that turned into a movie?
Yes, it was. Only
Okay,
the
because
first one, though.
saw the movie and that was awesome.
Yeah. And then we have a double feature of Gretchen Falconer Martin. Gretchen, I love you. I love a trans woman who does no favors for herself on the internet, and I love her. Gretchen Falconer Martin is a horror author, splatterpunk horror author. Subscribe to her Patreon. She writes even more sick shit on there. This is Manhunt. This is a gender apocalypse, but it's not written from chromosomal base. It's written from hormone base, and women can also become the hormone zombies if they have a high enough T level. Same with trans women, same with trans men, and same with cis men. And then it actually follows 2 trans women, a trans man, and it also follows a TERF in the movement of militant TERFs who is falling out of love with that movement. I love everybody in this book. They're so horrible to one another. I love them. Mwah. Thank you, Gretchen, for feeding me. And then Cuckoo, which is cosmic horror. This is just horrible shit happens to teenagers at a conversion camp that they like explode. It's great. And then the thing here, it has been described as Stephen King's It but queer.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep. I love you, Gretchen. Mwah.
Yeah. If anybody
Shout out to Mexican Gothic as well.
If anybody is in need of other horror stuff, horror manga artist Junji Ito, very well known.
Junji Ito.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Has
Junji.
great short stories. Uzumaki as like more long form work is incredible. Uzumaki is best described as, what if a town was haunted by a spiral? That's it. If you're wondering what is the spiral, what does that mean? Great question.
Read
Great
it.
question. That
Yeah.
has been very influential for me for horror because Junji Ito, one thing I love is that he never explains anything. It's never explained what any of the horrible things are, where they come from, why they do what they do. No reasoning is ever given. It just happens. You have to deal with it. It's incredible. I love it. I hate when horror is like over explained where it's like, and this was the horror villain the whole time, and this is why they did it, and actually what you didn't see was the back. Like, I now don't care
I
anymore.
don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Anymore.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I love Junji Ito so much.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh.
I haven't
good.
read him, but I know my friend who loves him, and like I've been tempted to. I've been tempted.
So good.
I think, I had something. Oh yeah, it's not strictly horror, but just the effects of it can be horrific. So I think like it deserves a little bit of a mention. Steins Gate. It's about the psychological effects of time travel, and just how deeply that can affect a person and their perception of reality and their perception of how they view their sense of self. It is so good. For the first 7 episodes, you're going to be confused. You're not going to know what's going on. That's okay. That's
Hell
okay.
yeah.
Just keep going. Just keep going.
I love being confused by a piece of media. I love that shit. That's my favorite soup.
Love it. Yeah. We're getting towards the end of our time here, so before we go, the final question for everyone. What was everyone's favorite part about working with each person?
Y'all are amazing. I love you all. You're amazing role players and you're amazing people. I love you all.
I love you all too. Well, for each one of them, again, I'll go first with Izzy. Amazing. You paint pictures with your words. I love it so much. And I really love the environment, the feeling, and the vibe you brought to it. I mean, it might sound cheesy, but it felt really, really immersive, and I felt like I was there.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I really loved it so much. And also like the leeway that you give for us to form our own perceptions, or form our own do our own sort of world building in it. Um, and also how uh, moved on from scene to scene, so that as players we tend to go on and on about it without care for what the pacing of the session should be, or an actual play should be. So kudos to you, you managed that exceptionally well. Adam's not here, but I loved everything about Adam, especially his uh, his character's relationship, how he role played that with everyone, and how it was different with everyone as well, including the NPCs. I love that about him. And uh, for Jellyfish, I love the sweet little dear boy. Uh, I, I'm, I mean, I can't like say enough about it. I love it so much. Um, and I love the sort of pseudo brotherly relationship that they sort of formed, where like Jahangir was trying to be overly protective, like, no, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be fine. Until then, like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna kill you. You know, d-
I'm gonna shoot
you
you.
know,
That's fair.
yeah, yeah. Then we have that with siblings. You're like, hey, I love you, but I really, really want to kill you right now. Uh, uh, and especially how similar both Dr. Wesley's and Jahangir's relationships are in some aspects. I didn't expect that. I really wish we could have gotten more deep into it.
Yeah, me
But
too. I
we
wanted
we
to.
sort of we sort of canonized it.
Yeah, we
In post
it happened.
in the epilogue. So we canonized it
Mhm,
like, okay, no, they have formed a bond. Like, because we needed
mhm.
we didn't get that in the gameplay, but yeah. So that's
It
all what
happened.
I loved. Yeah, it happened.
Mhm. Yeah. Mm. I think for Adam, because he's not here first, I'll start with him first. Just his way of inhabiting Father Torres was incredible in just how he carried his character and how his character interacted with everything and everyone, and just how his character was just so set in what he viewed to be righteous and correct and good, and how he reacted when confronted with this horrific evil and what he did to combat that evil. That was just all, like, I was so surprised when he would use the power and the magic system to bring holiness to fight against this man in his own church. Like, just this, the duality, the symbolism, the juxtaposition, all of it was just so good. And Aman, how you played Jahangir was perfect. You played him as this man who was very secretive, very scared, but someone who knew what he wanted, knew where he had to go, and was going to do whatever he could to get there. And because of that, just he was just so interesting. And when we had moments where we would just see him alone, I was like, oh yeah, this is character work. I love this. I love it so much. Like, oh my, like, I need to know everything, please. And Jellyfish, just Dallas being Eldritch Dear Boy, because I knew something was up with him. I knew. I wasn't sure what it was, but I knew. And I was like, okay, is it? I'm like, why is he apologizing for like what's happening later? Like, what does he know? Is he part of this cult? Like, I was like trying to figure out like what was going on. And so Dallas being a deer, but also just being this sort of, like, still at his core, this kind person, and how that kind of wraps around and combats with his Eldritch identity was just really interesting. And Izzy, Dear, you are just such a wonderful GM. The pacing, how you communicate with us about what we want to do with our characters, and how I was just like messaging you all sorts of stuff about Wesley, and how you were immediately like, "I love this, I love this, I love this." I'm like, "Cool, I know, but no, I know like the next session is like tomorrow, but thank you." So it's like it just it like I loved just how like open you were to stuff happening and just how you navigated a story and how you knew when to let us breathe but also when to corral us because like we wanted to leave the church, Jahangir and Wesley, and you were like, no, actually no, 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 no. No, no, you're not leaving. You're staying right there, and it's like that was just so good. Like it was just such a joy to have you as a keeper, and such a joy to work with everybody.
I love y'all so much. You're all amazing.
Mhm.
You're
Love you
all
too.
amazing in the work that you do. And
Oh, thank you.
we all have our
Thank you.
strengths and we all like Amon, your strength is definitely in character work. And it's definitely in like your sense of when to be timid but also when to be brave. For Melissa, your sense of character and how to embody one 100% there. For Adam, it is just the absolute like character relationships. It's 100% that, just like the character relationships, because like you can have parties where like there's people that don't want conflict at all, and then I'm just like, no, give me that, num num num, I eat that up. That's my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and also my snack. um but also for Izzy, your pacing, your plot, the way that you run these games is amazing. And I honestly don't think that I've met like a GM that's been as like nice to be like, oh yeah, weird deer shit, 100%. Love that for you.
Aw, thank you. Yeah, I'll go down with everybody and what I enjoyed most about all of you. We'll start with Adam since he's not here. What I really liked was the theming of Father Torres. It felt like there was a very deep running theme of like absolution and forgiveness. You know, he was an exorcism priest and he is traveling and he is seeing all these different things and he is like forgiving people of their sins. The conversation he had with Jahangir, it was like a very um, it was a very interesting theming for a character that I absolutely loved. For Amon, the emotionality that you put into it, I know that like when I myself participate in like one shots or like mini campaigns or things like that, I find it very easy to sort of like lose that emotionality of like, well, it's a character I'm only playing for like 3 sessions. It doesn't really matter. But like you threw yourself entirely into Jahangir. There was so much emotional weight. Absolutely loved it. Dallas, for Jellyfish, so incredibly inventive, absolutely so creative with the like, what if I'm turning into a deer? Like, what if I have the little deer nubs? What if I have a deer's tooth? What if I give a deer? Like, asking all these, like, what if, these probing questions, these, like, pushing the boundaries, like, it was really cool and it made me think of like, huh, what would happen if you gave a deer's tooth to Eden before her transformation, like all of that. Very, very cool. Melissa, the amount of care that you put into building Dr. Wesley Merrill to have this, like, you had this central point, this idea of a doctor with a disability on the mission to deliver a child, and how much attention to detail there was, how much like you put into the effort of like the backstory, and these specifically are his diseases. He's not just, you know, nebulously disabled. Like, this is specifically what he has. This is specifically like for the time period. This is appropriate. Like, really added to the whole character, to the world building. I had such a great time. Thank you all for being my players. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we wrap this up and everybody does their send offs, as promised at the beginning, I am going to announce the next mini-series from Game Master Monday. The next Game Master Monday Presents miniseries is going to be Class of 2005, a three-part after-school special being played in Flabbergasted and run by Rage Panda Pajamas. Join a crew of three best friends as they deal with high school crushes and a pet bearded dragon. Starring Dusty Hill, Janie Potts, and
Ooh.
Zoop, coming September
Oh,
17th through October 1st. Absolutely come
Love
by
that.
to check that out. I know I will be here because that sounds so much fun. That sounds awesome. And now,
It
for
does.
the final time for Burnt Creek, I'm going to ask my players to tell us who they are, who they have played, and where we can find them so we can continue to support them in all the wonderful stuff they do, starting from the top, Amon.
Hello, I'm Aman. I've been Aman, and I am still Aman, and I will be Aman. Pronouns he, him, and you can find me everywhere on Twitch, on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Twitter. I'll forever call it Twitter at Aman HK. Um, and I am also the co-host and one of the GMs at the Infinite Tavern podcast, recently Crit Award winning. I have to say it to make it real, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and we have been recently venturing into YouTube video podcasts. In fact, so that's something new for me, and it has made my editing life weirdly easier. I don't know how, but it has. So please do check out the Infinite Tavern podcast. We talk to a lot of people from all across the diaspora, Indian diaspora, the Indian community, and beyond as well. So we'd love to have you there.
Hell yeah. Next up, Jellyfish.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jellyfish Lines. I play Dallas Ashdown, pronouns he, him for the both of us. And I can be found everywhere online, especially on Twitter. Way too much. I'm chronically posting at capital J Jellyfish Lines, one word, no underscores, no nothing. And you can also find me as the keeper for playback static for the playback static podcast. That is the at is in my Twitter bio. You can find me there, and we also have a casting call out currently, a super secret casting call for another game by the Gauntlet that should be released sooner than later. It's also Eldritch horror, based in the Cthulhu mythos. Yeah, I am preparing for Arkham Herald's release very imminently. I'm so excited. It's 1970s and you're investigative reporters. I'm plugging this game. I don't even know if I'm gonna like it. I just love this. Uh but I'm currently looking for players for Operation Terminus, which is a actual play podcast of Triangle Agency. And I hope to see y'all sign up. And I will pass it off to Melissa.
Okay. So hi, I'm Melissa, pronoun she, they. I played the good doctor, Dr. Wesley Merrill, pronoun he, him. And if you want to see me and do more things, if you want to see someone who is probably the antithesis of Dr. Wesley Merrill, and you want to meet the boy, his name is Elias Kinley. He is in performance review, a Triangle Agency AP over on Talking XP. He plays the Absence, if you know the handbook for Triangle Agency. So he deals with invisibility and stuff. He's a D&D slash barista, who basically phased through a bunch of walls to go rescue his girlfriend. So there's that sort of just insanity of all of that, but it's so much fun over there. And also, if you want to hear me talk about clerics and why I love them so much, you can do that. Congratulations, because today I was on my friend Jojo's podcast Gauntlet, where we talked about clerics for about an hour, and my episode is Tip Your Clerics, and I may be on there at some point, possibly. Not saying anything else because I'm not sure what Jojo wants me to say. But anyway, yeah. And you can find me on Twitter at Melissa C. C is spelled like the verb, not the letter. And you can also find me on TikTok at Melissa Z Books. Again, C is spelled like the verb, not the letter. And that's me.
Speaking of second projects, Flyleaf to End Sheets. You can find me there with my co-host W.D. Smith.
Hell yeah. And I have been your game master slash storyteller, Izzy. You can find me over on Twitter at NEXODUS99. There you can find links to stuff that other shows that I am in, as well as buy any of my games on itch.io / ladylike. No, ladylike.itch.io. There we go. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I should know my own links by now. Anyways, yeah, you can find me over there. And thank you all so much for coming to this Q&A. Thank you again to all of my wonderful players for being so wonderful. I love all of you, love everybody in the audience, and I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Same.
Good night.
Love y'all.
Night.
Night.
Good night.